It's a beautiful Virginia day, a far cry from the rain showers that came through and affected race one of the weekend. But TC America, powered by Skip Barber, is back and ready to go. The second leg of the doubleheader weekend here at VIR. My name is Ryan Marine. Calvin Fish is alongside, and it's Amanda Busick controlling the pits for us here once again today as we get ready to go for the second race of the weekend, Cal. And for once, we had a new winner breaking through. It was not the Rick Autosport stable that had swept the first handful of races to get the season started, but a big performance from the Toyota camp and JMF Motorsport to get the win. Jonathan Neudorf, what a drive yesterday to take his first career TC America victory.
Yeah, it was a thrill of a race yesterday. Hopefully we'll see similar action here today, even though the weather looks to be a lot more consistent here this morning. But yeah, just what a breakthrough for that team. Early development phase with that Toyota, had the all-wheel drive that really came into play when we got the precipitation on the racetrack for a handful of laps. But he had the pole based on a little bit of sandbagging that was going on, some gamesmanship during practice, and that eventually became qualifying for race one, with qualifying being effectively eliminated because of lightning in the area. And then he just got his head down, Jonathan Neudorf, got to the front, and Ricker had that little bobble on the opening lap. It was fun to see him come through the pack there and grab a podium spot. But today could be a little bit different. Hyundai's sweeping the front row, so I think for Neudorf, he's got a lot more work to do.
We're just waiting for the grid to clear. Just had Pirelli GT4 America qualifying a few moments ago, so that's what you're looking at here in the pit lane. Those cars getting ready to make their way back to the paddock, and that would clear the space for TC America, powered by Skip Barber. Like you say, Jeff had a very uncharacteristic bobble. It was roughly at the same time that some rain started. Don't know if that had any impact on it, but the ultimate result of it was Jeff Riga had a recovery to do, ultimately did get back up to third, but had the fastest lap of the race and consequently will start on the Rova pole position today. Rova pole sitter yesterday, though, was the race winner, and he's standing by with Amanda Busick.
Hey Ryan, we're ready for race number 2 down here. As you'll see, some of the GT4 cars clearing behind us, but this gives us an opportunity to talk with these drivers without these helmets on, that being your race winner yesterday, Jonathan Neudorf. And we know you're starting from the second row today. We were talking a little bit about that front line speed that you feel like you guys kind of struggle with. What can you do early in this race to make it difficult for the Hyundais?
Yeah, I'm going to try and do what I can into turn one. If there's a gap, I'm going to go for it. And then just try and keep the Hyundais behind me. Do my best to be defensive and make the car as wide as possible and give them a hard time trying to pass me. I'm not too sure if we'll be able to win again today, but you never know. It's racing, so we'll do our best.
Now, you got to enjoy the position of celebration yesterday, but a lot of us were talking about how that was one of the best TC races that we've seen all season. What was it like as the experience for the drivers?
Oh, yeah, I mean, it felt amazing. It felt great for Toyota, the team, everyone. The mixed conditions made it very, very fun, very difficult. I was obviously leading, so I was the first one to experience all these mixed conditions throughout the race, so it was interesting being the first one there and having to figure out where to brake and where the grip was. So, yeah, it was fun.
Good luck today.
Thank you.
Impressive young driver. Great to see him get that breakthrough. Big shot of the arm for the team and for the manufacturer. Toyota has big plans for this Toyota GR Corolla TC platform. They're continually working on it, trying to bring it closer to the competitive window that is envisioned in this combined TC class, new for 2025, and they continue to make strides.
They do, and I'll be interested to see how he makes the car with probably the smallest footprint as wide as possible down some of these straightaways here. So, he's got to get to the front to get in that defensive position, and I think the entry to turn one will be interesting. I think he's already indicated he's willing to go for it. If he sees a gap, he's going to try and stick it down the inside in a tricky turn one approach when the tires aren't really quite at their optimum with just one formation lap here. But nonetheless, I think the Hyundai's dry pace is a little bit stronger than the Toyota still, but as he said, in racing, anything can happen.
There are the conditions. As you can see, it is a warm one, 86 degrees, but with that humidity up around 76%, it feels a whole lot warmer than that, and track temperatures have been in the triple digits for hours already here under the Virginia sunshine. We talked about Neudorf and his breakthrough win. Maybe lost a little bit in that was the phenomenal debut from Andre Castro, who finished second in his Gin Racer Hyundai. Not someone who's been in a full-time role in anything, really, over the last few years. Just a handful of opportunities here and there, but he was super strong yesterday, and he'll have a good starting position again, starting from the outside of the front row.
Yeah, his fast lap was only a half-tenth off Jeff Ricker, who's got so much time in these race cars. So tremendous performance, a nice podium run there. He'll start alongside his team boss, and we'll see what sort of team politics will come into play there in terms of any argy-bargy down into turn one, and maybe that's where Neudorf can take advantage, knowing that those teammates are going to try and play nice a little bit, not get too close, and he can be more aggressive.
For those that aren't familiar with Andre Castro, he grew up a big fan of Juan Montoya. His family has Colombian heritage and pursued open-wheel racing early in his career. Last few years, he's mostly been dabbling, doing some road racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Just a few weeks ago, was racing on the streets of Chicago in that championship, a city where he went to university, as a matter of fact. But if you want an idea of just how good his junior career was in limited opportunities, he finished on the podium in the Formula Ford Festival in 2021 as part of the Team USA scholarship. And that is no mean feat. That is hard to do.
It is really hard to do. That is an amazing race to go and do well in. So I think the boy's got a lot of talent. I love the way that he's got pretty diverse in terms of the disciplines that he's already encountered with his racing career, and I think that really stood him in great shape to jump aboard one of these front-wheel drive cars for the first time and showcase, yeah, I can drive anything quick.
Does have a little bit of experience here at VIR going back to his days in the US F4 Championship, but again, totally different beast when you got a roof over your head and it's suddenly front-wheel drive and not rear-wheel drive. These cars don't make a ton of downforce, so they'll move around under you, but he's been a quick study. Really, really impressed with what he's been able to do here this weekend, and kind of got pointed in that direction to join the Gin Racer team, thanks to Victor Gonzalez, who has gone out of his way a few times this year to help identify some young talent in need of an opportunity and sent them the way of Jeff Ricker.
Yeah, we see here Jonathan Neudorf getting strapped in. It's hard with the Hans device there to kind of dip your head low enough to actually get the buckle done. So typically you've got a driver assist, even though obviously this is not a driver change, but that certainly showcases how tricky it is to see down into your lap these days with all of the safety things that have just been tremendous development in terms of keeping these drivers safe should they ever have an incident out on the racetrack.
Talked about some of the good stories from yesterday. James Klimas was one as well. His best finish of the season. He finished in 5th, and he's ready to go.
He's listening.
Yeah, I guess so. Good luck to you today, James. He'll be rolling off from the 6th position, so just one spot behind where he finished yesterday. A few, though, that had some troubles yesterday. PJ Gronke pulled off late. Not exactly sure what his issue was. He had an off-track moment, and then 3 laps before the finish, he came to the pit lane, so he'll be looking to bounce back. And also a difficult day in the debut this season for the Mazda 3 from the FTG Racing program.
Yeah, sad to see both Mazdas have troubles early yesterday. Great to see Sally McNulty back on the grid. She did a full season last year with Jeff Ricker Autosport, so she's now part of the FTG Racing Mazda camp.
And they'll start out back. Sally really didn't get a lap time in yesterday. Joey Jordan went a little bit further along, but they'll be starting 8th and 9th. You know, though, that Joey in particular will be aggressive on the start, assuming they're able to get those cars out there. Interesting, I don't see them at the back of this train, so maybe that's a story for Amanda to chase for us. They were due to line up 8th and 9th, but they have had some technical issues throughout the course of this weekend, so that could be an ongoing saga. We'll try and get to the bottom of that, but at the very front, it is Jeff Ricker returning to form, starting on the pole position after a difficult day yesterday. Rare to see him have to fight through adversity, but he was really patient, working his way through the traffic, and was able to secure a top 3.
Yeah, it seemed like turn 11 was his problem area. That's the entry to Oak Tree Corner, or the corner preceding Oak Tree, should I say. Sort of like a tricky one. He lost the tail of the car on the opening lap, and then he had a bit of a lurid slide there later in the going as well, despite the track not being optimum. It did dry out, but wonder if he's had to make some changes to the setup there to give it a little bit more settled.
We shall see. Here is a look at the starting grid. As mentioned, on the Rover pole position is Jeff Rica. He'll have his teammate and debutant Andre Castro alongside. Eric Coons and yesterday's winner, Jonathan Neudorf, starting in row number 2. Antonio Costantino had an early off in the race yesterday, never quite could recover. Starts 5th next to James Klimas. PJ Gronke starting in the 4th row. Joey Jordan scheduled to be starting alongside, and Sally McNulty was due to start in 9th. And I think we might have an update on that story. Let's check in one more time with Amanda before we go green.
Hey guys, yeah, just a couple updates down here before we get going. The Mazdas are absent from the grid, both Joey and Sally. I was walking up and down pit lane to see if I could see any team members. They are absent as well, so sorry to report that. You were talking about PJ Gronke. He had a misfire yesterday in that Hyundai, decided to just bring it in to Gen Racer for precaution and save his car for today. And then just to wrap up, I was talking to Jeff Rica a little bit before we got started today, and he said the kid to my left can get it done today. So will we see Jeff Rica off that top step of the podium? He thinks Andre might be able to do it.
Well, that would be fun to watch if those two do battle amongst themselves. Teammates, of course, but that said, we've seen a couple of the team cars head Jeff a few times this year. Not often, but it can happen. Here comes the field as they approach the VP acceleration zone. The pole sitter is Jeff Rica. To the left-hand side of the screen, white nose on his Hyundai Elantra id1 TC Evo. Alongside is the newcomer, Andre Castro, a runner-up finish yesterday. Rica steps on the power. There's the green flag. We're underway. 25 minutes the distance here as Rica is able to grab the lead here from Castro. They settle in single file to run down to turn 1. Here comes Neudorf, though, working that outside lane in the Toyota, trying to take away the 3rd spot from Eric Coons.
Yeah, Neudorf didn't look like he anticipated the jump to green very well, but now he gets really tight there. He makes a bold move down into turn 3 on this opening lap and takes that position away.
That's NASCAR banned, and great move there by Neudorf to grab the spot up to 3rd. His best finish prior to yesterday was 5th. Broke through for that big win. Now running in podium contention once again here in the early stages. Up through Snake, into the climbing S's. This is really high speed, high commitment. One of the most iconic parts of this circuit.
Yeah, and it seemed like Neudorf's car came alive early yesterday, and you got to think that maybe in the back of Jeff Rica's mind is this upcoming corner just coming into turn 10 right there. That's the left-hander. Then that approach to this right-hander, turn 11, where he had that little bobble yesterday. Does he slow it down a little bit further here today?
This is where he had the off on the opening lap yesterday. Nice and tidy this time through for Jeff. Now the long drag run down what's called Madison Avenue, over 3,000 feet in length. This really tests the power plant here at VIR.
Yeah, and I think that's the area of development the Toyotas are working on. They've worked on the valve train. They're also trying to get their turbos a little bit more efficient. You can see that Toyota just gets gapped a little bit, particularly when we get to the second half. That's a move there, possibly by PJ Gronke making a move on Costantino there.
Yep, able to make the pass on his countrymen. A couple of Canadians scrapping for 5th and 6th. PJ up a spot. Reporting from Amanda, the misfire yesterday curtailed what was a bit of a difficult run, to be honest, up to that point, but took away any chance at a good finish, and he came into the weekend 2nd in points. That cost him dearly, as it looked like it could have been a pretty good day early on with Rica having his problems.
It does. So Castro's hanging on to his team boss here. Neudorf's dropping back a little bit, feeling the heat from Coons, and the 3rd of the Hyundais in this top 4 battle.
And Rica feeling some heat too. Castro threatening, forcing Jeff to go on the defensive, able to hang on to the lead. Neudorf lets it drift out wide, and here comes Coons fighting back where he lost the position 1 lap ago, this time trying to take it back from the Toyota driver, but not going to happen this time. Neudorf able to fend him off.
Yeah, compression here at the front of the field, so this is interesting stuff. Thought that Rica and Castro would kind of just run line astern and take off a little bit from the Toyota in these dry conditions, but that's not the case.
No, so far so good. It's exactly what the JMF camp would like to see. Neudorf, who's been on track, by the way, already today, just a few moments before the start of this race. He was qualifying for Pirelli GT4 America, which has its first race later on this afternoon. So he'll have the track knowledge, but has to totally adjust here to a much different race car as Castro goes on the attack into Oak Tree.
Yeah, I think he's feeling it a little bit. It seemed to me like Rick is just trying to manage things up front right now, but it's allowing Newdorf to stay close to the Hyundais. And for his teammate Castro, he's got to be wondering, okay, what do you want me to do here? Do you want me to go for the lead and get by you, or just sit station here and become your wingman?
Jeff Ricka's lead in the point standings, pretty substantial coming in, so I think there's a pretty good chance they're allowed to fight freely here. Castro making his series debut this weekend, so he's not thinking about points at all. It's all about collecting trophies and maybe earning more opportunities down the road.
Yeah, he's certainly able to freewheel it here a little bit this weekend. See, Newdorf's got a lot of work to do. He just gets spread there, the gap. The cushion up front is magnified down that long straightaway, Madison Avenue. As you said, it's a big stretch there. It's kind of a dyno run.
If you have any deficiencies in the powertrain, they get exposed very quickly on that high-speed section of the racetrack. Field comes through. Ricka with the best lap of the race so far, able to pull a bit of a gap, half a second clear in terms of lap time relative to Castro. Newdorf, though, holding his own, and Coons nipping at his heels, fighting for the final step of the podium. PJ Gronke, now that he's cleared the traffic in the form of Costantino, he sets off in pursuit of the top four and ran a pretty good lap the last time by, right on the same pace as the front runners.
Yeah, well, it was interesting to see the different lines that are adopted around this racetrack, particularly on the exit of turn one. It blends into turn two immediately, and Newdorf was really running a wide line through there, and you sometimes see a driver behind kind of tuck in, kind of shortcut the racetrack a little bit. It's all about tire deck and making sure you're not getting any slip there coming out of that corner.
Good battle here. Yesterday's winner. What a breakthrough it was for Jonathan Newdorf. Now fighting for all he's worth, just to hang on to that third spot, which he stole away from Coons on the opening lap. Very similar sector times from all four of these cars, really.
The Hyundai certainly have a bit of an edge, and Rick has kind of got his head down now. He's kind of demonstrating the pace that I thought he may have. As you said, Ryan, he set the best lap on the previous tour here at 2:05.0. It's about half a second clear of the chasing pack right now as we go side by side.
This is hairy stuff, trying to make it work side by side through roller coaster. Good respect shown between the two. Newdorf parries the thrust that time from Coons. He keeps him behind.
Yeah, I was going to use the same word there. Just good respect between the two drivers, Ryan, in terms of enough racing room without trading paint. Newdorf just trying to, he's realized that he's vulnerable there, and that's going to be the one weak spot that he has on that entry there with the Hyundais coming at him a little bit.
Maybe aided by the toe, but Coons had the best middle sector of anyone that time through. Allowed him to close in on the back bumper of Newdorf. Not terribly close enough to threaten here into turn one. Interesting, Newdorf had started to make some progress there on Castro.
Yeah, you see the different lines again there as they come through turn two, but what a statement by Jeff Ricker on that last lap. 1 second faster than Castro behind him, so he's taken off here. He's making a bit of a statement here. Gave you guys an opportunity yesterday. I'm not going to make that happen here today.
He's a real talent, and of course also the man behind this Hyundai TC program. For so many years, Jin Racer has been prepping Hyundais for the racetrack, and that relationship with the factory has just grown closer and closer over the last few years, as evidenced by the fact that Jeff's been over to do some racing in South Korea. He's also represented the brand at big events like 24 Hours of the Nürburgring. And this whole project here, this Hyundai Elantra N1 TC Evo, that's all built by the Jin Racer shop up in the Northeast.
So he's hitting his marks perfectly. He looks to have beautiful rhythm with his race circuit here this morning. So again, I wonder if he's tweaked on his race car a little bit after yesterday, where it looked a little bit tail happy. And he's just got his head down and gave his teammate thoughts of maybe he was vulnerable. Here comes Coons once again on Newdorf. Side by side into the braking zone for the roller coaster. Newdorf tries to take it in deep. Coons pushes a little bit further. He's probably going to clear him, and he does.
Wow, that was good stuff. That time Coons just a little bit closer into the brake zone. Was able to stay alongside at corner entry, and Neudorf had no recourse, had to drop back in line. So Koons into podium contention now, and PJ Gronke starting to reel these two in. So Neudorf, his troubles aren't over just yet. PJ's on the charge.
Yeah, and I think when you get into those braking battles there, into the roller coaster, I think if you're on the attack like Koons was, you just got to be a bit more aggressive in the first third of that braking zone. Just take it in a little bit deeper, then get a little bit heavier on the brakes there to just establish yourself. If you're kind of the guy alongside you, give them the opportunity to be on the inside for the next corner as you exit that right-hander.
Reigning Sports Car Club Canada TCA champion is Eric Koons from Orangeville, Ontario.
Of this racetrack, how it gives you the ability to explore and just find a little bit more grip and just change your radius a little bit and kind of gauge that against the competitor that you're in a fight with.
Do sections of this track compare to other tracks? Is there anything you can draw from a parallel perspective, or is this place on the unique side of things?
I think it's pretty unique. I relate it to a track like Alton Park over in the UK that I raced at quite a bit, and yeah, it's just what I call old school. There's some pieces of curb and runoff area that you just try and see if it's efficient to be out there. Neudorf on the attack there, looks to the inside. That's always going to be a risky move, and potential contact there at apex through Oak Tree, named after the famous oak tree that used to sit on the inside of the apex there that was had to be taken down a handful of years ago.
An acorn from that famous tree, though, was planted just outside that corner, known as Son of Oak Tree. And it's amazing how much that's grown in the time I've been coming to the circuit, but long time, unfortunately, until it cast a shadow quite as long as its predecessor that still lends its name to that famous corner here at VIR. Interesting, this battle has not gone away, even though Koons was able to put the move on Neudorf the last lap. Jonathan still has some pace in that Corolla. Again, showing it's not just the mixed conditions, but Toyota has made big strides with this program, with even more developments coming. Check it back in with our race leader. It's now a 1 second lead. Jeff Ricca back to Andre Castro. Let's get more on his story now with Amanda.
Yeah, you guys were talking about improvements to Jeff Ricca overnight. I was talking to the team, and those actually came from the miscues from Jeff yesterday going off of track, so that they got that Hyundai back to on the pad, pointed straight and fast again for Jeff to compete here today. But you were talking about Jeff and his association with Hyundai, and I think the association with the next generation of racers should be talked about with Jeff as well. I know we touch on it throughout the season, but Andre Castro is the 7th different driver that we've seen from Jeff this season. He told me that there's likely 4 additional drivers that we'll see before the end of the season. Says he finds these drivers online and on social media. His criteria, he hopes that they're young, that they have a social media presence, and that they'll be a visible asset to Hyundai.
It's a great story, and great as well that he's been able to seek out some drivers that have demonstrated talent but haven't had opportunity, and this could be that introduction into top-level racing that could help jumpstart a career.
Amanda's pretty tasty behind the wheel of the rental car. Maybe she could be the next...
You gonna volunteer yourself, Amanda?
You know, I'm pretty good at defending, as we witnessed last night, but we won't name any names.
It's true. Held off at least silver-graded driver, I think it's safe to say, for a good chunk of time. Anyway, that's a story for another day. Right now, we've reached the halfway mark, or just about. The Jeff Ricca's lead ever so slightly coming down. Castro has found the pace over the last few laps and has just chipped away at it. It's back down under a second now, as the battle has become a 3-way battle between Koons, Neudorf, and here's PJ Gronke, who has slowly but surely reeled them in. Neudorf goes wide in hog pen. That's going to leave him awfully vulnerable. Here comes PJ through. He's up another spot.
Yeah, did a nice job of controlling it, not getting too wide into the dirt and going for a rough ride, but nonetheless lost all of his momentum onto this front stretch, and suddenly he's down in 5th position.
Well, doesn't take much, but especially if you feel like maybe you're at a deficit, you have to push that much harder just to keep up with the competition, and the margin for error shrinks dramatically.
Yeah, and I think we spoke about this during the opening 3 events of the calendar in terms of, you know, when you're on the back foot with the development of a new car, it makes you push everything to find that little bit. And then if suddenly you can get that balance of performance where you got more power, you've kind of fine-tuned the race car, so the car's really working well, because that's where you can only find performance from previously. So I think it's all coming together. I mean, we saw some changes this weekend. Certainly we talked about the Toyotas working on their engines, but also the Hyundais were given a little bit more weight to carry, which has an effect during the race. But up front here, Castro is certainly keeping his teammate honest and running very similar lap times. That gap is hovering right around 9/10 of a second to a 1 second gap up front.
There haven't been many that have been able to match Jeff Ricka's pace this year. Human Kim, when he came over and won a couple of races at Circuit of the Americas, comes to mind. But this is a testament to the talent of Andre Castro here. First time in this car, limited experience at this track, no experience in front-wheel drive cars, and yet he's right here, as you said. Started second, but only missed pole by less than 1/10 of a second yesterday.
Yeah, and I think what he's able to do now, because he's close enough, he can really take the lead from Jeff Ricker up front in terms of observing his lines. You still got to do the job inside the cockpit, but in terms of, you got that gauge in front of you. Neudorf talked about yesterday in the tricky conditions. He was kind of the guinea pig, having to figure out what sort of grip level was there. But certainly Castro's found some lap time here in the last 3 or 4 laps and kept him honest up front in terms of our leader, Jeff Ricker.
Not much between the two of them. Lap times nearly identical. As we see, the gap has fluctuated just marginally. It was 34 thousandths of a second between the two of them on the last lap. Meantime, things hotting up here once again. Eric Koons, if he wants this podium, it would be his second of the year. Looks like he's going to have to fight for it, because PJ Gronke has arrived on the scene, and in Race Vision powered by AWS, you can see the improvement that PJ has made, reeling in his competition here pretty steadily over the last handful of laps.
Yeah, it's a really good run here for PJ. He'd have been disappointed with that technical issue, had that misfire, as Amanda reported on in the race yesterday. Didn't finish the race, didn't see the checkered flag. The team has obviously figured out what was wrong with that, but PJ's been on the charge from a lowly grid position, obviously based on the fast lap yesterday.
Another update from the pit lane. Amanda, what have you learned?
Yeah, there was a nice cheer down here from Jen Racer when PJ Gronke took that 4th position from Jonathan Neudorf. Jen Racer currently running 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th here today. You're going to take a look at the guy sitting in 3rd currently on the last step of the podium. I was talking to Eric about his experience here at VIR, and while it's his first race here in a front-wheel car, he did buy a Honda Civic down here last year and was able to shake it down on the track, so he had a little familiarity with VIR before this weekend. But alongside Eric, as I was talking to them at the pre-grid, was his dad, Matt, and his mom, Sharon, is on site as well. It's really become a family tour for the Koons this year, and I would say, Ryan, as you said, we saw him on the podium at Sebring. I would imagine this result would be quite exciting for the Koons family as well.
No doubt about it. It's been a great story and a great family. Had a chance to spend a little time with them earlier in the season. Certainly passionate about their racing, and Eric, super impressive. Went from arrive and drive karting to a Canadian touring car class champion in just 5 years. And now a chance to showcase his skills on another level here in TC America, but he's got his hands full. Here comes PJ Gronke, looking left, looking right. The Canadian veteran, 2-time series champion in different classes, trying to find his way back onto the podium.
Yeah, PJ looks really quick at this stage of the race, and he's going to try and dig deep here. I mean, there's a big difference between finishing 3rd and 4th and spraying champagne or not, so he's going to see if he can get around his teammate, but Neudorf is keeping them honest. He was bionic in the brake zone there up in turn 14, entering the roller coaster there on that last go around, and really closed the gap by about a couple of car lengths there in that one brake zone alone.
Yeah, he's been really impressive, hanging tough with these Hyundais here in the dry conditions. And again, his car control in the wet, the way he read the track in the wet and then drying conditions yesterday, it belied his lack of experience and lack of years, quite frankly. It was quite eye-opening. Oh, big moment there for Koons.
Just keeps it together. He's going to get back on track, and suddenly that podium spot is between a Hyundai and a Toyota. This is a battle for third and fourth right now. PJ up to P3, as you can see in the distance. His two teammates keeping it close together. The gap up front, only 0.6 of a second now.
That was a great save from Coons. As we mentioned, we had a ton of rain here overnight. That grass is still wet. And in several of the sessions already earlier today, we've seen if cars go off, they just keep on going. It's hard to reel it back in. Here's a look at it.
Yeah, it just gets wide there, misses the mark, misses the turn-in point, and you know, we're starting to see a little bit of dust fly up there through the climbing S's, which is good news. That means it's drying out, and as drivers do get two wheels off, they're hitting some dirt rather than just wet grass and going for a big slide. But Neudorf sees the opportunity. Big win yesterday. He'll have to follow up with a podium here, but PJ looks really strong today.
Great drive from PJ Gronke, who started 7th, so up 4 spots. He's had to fight for it. A good pace in that car. Now curious what he can do without any traffic in front of him for the first time in quite some time. To the front of the field, though, look at this. Castro has whittled the lead down to just half a second, and Rick has been pushed. He goes off wide to the right there in NASCAR Bend.
He's going to have dirt on his tires here. He's got to regroup here quickly.
Perhaps fitting that the sometime NASCAR driver, Andre Castro, was able to make some ground up through NASCAR Bend. Turned so named because some of the big names of NASCAR, Richard Petty among them, ran a Trans Am race here decades and decades ago and had their fair share of troubles in that corner, and it's bore the moniker ever since.
Yeah, you have to wonder about that setup change that they made after Jeff's car looked loose here yesterday. That was a big understeer moment there coming through turn 3 on the approach to turn 4. So maybe late in this race going, balance has kind of shifted to be outside of the sweet spot.
Castro is really hooked up at the moment. Right there on Rick's bumper, and Jeff may be a bit lucky.
Watch Neudorf here. Does he look to do the crossover? No, he's patient there, just trying to focus on the exit through Oak Tree.
We talked, though, about how difficult it can be to race if you're at a power deficit to your competition. We think that's the situation here. Hyundai relative to the Toyota, the Hyundai a bit more powerful. It makes it difficult to be close enough to pounce into one of these braking zones.
It does. It's not like the Hyundai's just steaming away from it. It looks to be a lot closer than it was early in the season. So those adjustments are certainly working that the series are trying to develop to make this a pretty even playing ground for a new manufacturer coming in. We talk about the future of this class, and BMW and others certainly on the sidelines waiting to get their cars ready for entry.
Yes, and again, that Mazda program, bit of a false start, unfortunately, here this weekend, but a couple of cars on site with plans to be at the remaining races, so that's another manufacturer with some involvement. A lot of that done, of course, by the FTG team, but with some Mazda backing.
Look at this. Rick is having to use a lot more of the racetrack than Castro is. I think Castro's car may be a little bit better balanced in this final phase of the race.
Castro got a great run there through the left-hander, now closes in. This is as close as he's been. Both of those cars using a lot of curb here at VIR. But I'll tell you, it looks like Castro's car is just a little bit more planted here at this late stage.
It does. Looks like he's a little bit more efficient with his lines here, not having to use as much of the racetrack, but catching and having similar pace is one thing. Jeff Rick has got a ton of experience, but again, maybe Castro can lean on the fact that they are teammates. If he gets a little bit aggressive, maybe Jeff will have to give it up.
Jeff's got a championship to think about, of course. Andre does not. Moonlighting here this weekend, making his series debut, second yesterday. Very nearly took pole position. Jeff Ricka's fast lap of the race yesterday, just enough to nab that away. Meantime, Gronke has not pulled away on Neudorf at all.
He's done a nice job through 11 and 12 there by just maintaining good rolling speed. This is PJ Gronke, because I think if he was overslowing the car, I think Neudorf would think maybe that's as close as I can get to him and have a poke down the inside.
Leaders are doing laps at the 205 brackets. It looks like, depending on how quickly they can get back around, we might see the white flag, or it might be 2 more laps. Yeah, really, really close. Here comes the leader, Jeff Ricka. The start-finish line quite a ways down this pit straight, too. This is really close as to what we will see. Let's take a look at the flag stand.
I think
and
that should be
there's
white.
the white flag. One
Yeah.
lap to go here at VIR. Jeff Ricca looking to bounce back after a season-worst third yesterday. That goes to show what kind of season it's been for Jeff when that's your worst finish of the year. He took pole position here for this race, and he has led every lap so far, but under pressure from a very impressive newcomer, Andre Castro, not far behind.
Jeff seems to have got his head down. Castro very conservative there with his line coming through turn 2. I think there's a middle ground there where you got a little bit more exit speed, and to me it seems like he may have lost a car length there.
Stopwatch would agree. It went from a 0.6 of a second gap to 7. Slight edge to Jeff Ricca through that micro sector, coming around to complete sector 1, and it is slightly quicker for Jeff that time by just about a 1/10.
Really, you talk about the dominance of this team and the Hyundai platform other than the Toyota win yesterday, and also a testimony to the preparation that Jeff and his whole group have put together here to run such an armada of cars and them to run so consistently. Yes, PJ had that slight bobble and misfire yesterday, but typically these cars have run flawlessly.
Right. Can't hardly think of any issues outside of what PJ suffered yesterday. Very uncharacteristic.
I think that's what's so enticing. We talk about all these new drivers kind of coming to the Ricca Autosport team for the year. If you're looking how do I get involved in SRO competition, this is the first rung on the ladder, really. Really efficient budget, and Jeff Ricca is a great opportunity if you're looking to dip your toe in the water.
Jeff right now in control through Hogpen, final sequence for the final time. Andre Castro gave him a run for his money, but Jeff Ricca will be back atop the box here in race 2. Gin Racer and Hyundai will celebrate at least a podium sweep. There's the checkered flag for Jeff Ricca. He picks up the win. Castro follows him home just 0.6 of a second behind. PJ Gronke will try and hang on for that final step at the podium, and he does. Great bounce back for PJ. That's his 3rd podium this season, and it is a clean sweep of the top 3 spots for Gin Racer. Neudorf in 4th after the breakthrough win yesterday. Coons comes across the line in 5th. Costantino in 6th, and James Klimas sees the checkered flag in the 7th position after his strongest run of the season just one day ago.
That was a good run.
It was.
Really fun to watch the two teammates going at it. Neudorf kind of gave it everything for Toyota, but JMF just comes up a little bit shy of a podium run again. But certainly things are tightening up. It's been fascinating to see this basically new format of the class here for 2025 evolve, Ryan.
Well, we talk about it as a transition year for the series. Gone are the multiple classes that we've seen in previous years, everyone merging together into a common rule set, and consequently the manufacturers have to adapt to bring some cars that fit the technical regulations that the series has set out. And as you say, we know BMW has a new turnkey offering that's set to debut next year globally, and you have to believe a lot of those will make their way over stateside. It's the way it's been historically, and that should fit nicely into this package. Of course, Hyundai, a stalwart here. Toyota just getting stronger. And then hopefully we can see a few signs of progress as well from the Mazdas, which unfortunately did not see the green flag here today. As we look at the provisional race results, amazing, I still think, what Andre Castro did here this weekend. The pace that he had relative to a much more experienced in this type of car teammate in Jeff Ricca. I really hope we get a chance to see Andre again.
Yeah, it's been great to see him kind of showcase what he can do. He'll have learned a lot here this weekend. So, as you say, hopefully we'll see him in future events, because I think he's got the speed and the ability in one of these front-wheel drive cars to get it to victory lane.
Just to go into a race weekend having been through the process before, you know the championship, you know the tire, you know the car at that stage. He was not afforded any of those luxuries. He had some knowledge of the track, and that was about it coming into this weekend. So you'd like to think that a second appearance in the series could unlock even more from him. and helped to unlock a little bit more from the team as a whole, which has been firing on all cylinders, as evidenced by the fact that they've swept the podium here once again.
Actually, PJ Gronke have a really solid run here today from deep in the pack, climbing off the podium. Yeah, they were several seconds back of the 2 leaders, but that was a great little battle between he and Newdorf, with PJ coming out on top by just 0.4 of a second.
Had a great season last year in the final year of that TCA class, won the title, 8 races that he won last year, 13 times on the podium. But it's been an adjustment for him, by his own admission, getting used to this car, which is a step up in performance, and it goes about making its speed in a lot different manner than the Mini that he's raced for the past several seasons.
Yeah, I think so. I think you know, the Mini was so much about momentum. I think you have to drive this car a little bit more carefully on entry, and I think that's what Jeff Ricker is trying to teach PJ. Got to slow it down. We saw him overdriving the car a little bit at certain races early in the season, but that was a super solid run for PJ here today.
Yeah, it was. And you know, he loves being in the fight as much as anything else, and so to make his way up through the field, to have the battles that he had, yeah, he'll be thrilled. As you can see, Jeff Ricker is thrilled as well. Holding up the number 1, back to victory lane. And maybe he'll be even happier because his team swept the top 3 spots here today.
That was not just a managed race. He was pushing. We saw that little moment between 3 and 4 where he ran wide, and Castro got really close to him. So I think he was pushing hard here to get this win.
Yep, there is Castro climbing out. A pair of second-place finishes. I think he can be proud of that.
Good job, boss. Thanks. Awesome driving.
Great to hear from him yesterday post-race, and he certainly was enjoying the experience. Chance now, though, to hear from our race winner. Amanda Busick is in victory circle.
Jeff, I was talking to you before the race about how you were right back where you're supposed to be, on pole, and now on the top step yet again. The guys were talking about how you were pushing today. You guys will finish first, second, and third today. At this point in your career, how your win, yes, but how rewarding is it what you're doing with Gen Racer?
Having a dominant Hyundai force here is one of those things that doesn't come, easy. So this is like a reward to my crew, to the manufacturer, all those people home as well as overseas that support us. I couldn't have done without them. So this is a good feeling, and we're just going to build on this, and we're going to go farther into the year with more points, and 2026 is going to look even better. So I love it.
Do you recognize the impact you're having?
The impact, it's an impact of getting my drivers that have never raced in TC America before and having them come here for the first time and see them smile when they get out of the car every session, and now bring podiums to them. That means a lot to the manufacturer, but to the drivers that put trust in me, building a car, setting up a car to be a podium material, and their first, endeavor to go into pro racing. So yeah, it's an exciting moment.
Enjoy this one as driver and team owner.
Lots to be proud of there for Jeff. 2 thumbs up and well-deserved. It's been a phenomenal season for them. They'll look to keep that momentum rolling as the championship heads to its next stop, Road America, just a few short weeks. Another track where high-speed corners, high commitment as well is rewarded. And we'll see how the Hyundai momentum carries into Elkhart Lake in a few weeks' time. Look back on race 2 of the weekend. We had some good battles. Castro putting pressure early on Jeff Ricker behind him. It was a great move early in the going from Jonathan Newdorf to get that Toyota back into podium contention, but ultimately just too much power from the Hyundai camp. This was a great duel between Eric Coons and Jonathan Newdorf. 2 laps it took to put that move on, and finally Coons did get the spot, but it went away from him here at the top of the hill. Gets off wide into the wet grass. Great job to save that car and at least preserve a top 5 finish. Although Jeff Ricker built a large gap at one stage in the race, that came down and Castro was able to close in and make it a race, but Jeff Ricker returned to the top step of the podium with a victory in race 2.